Hello and welcome. My name is TK Byron from A Girl's Essence, and I just want to quickly share with you what I got out of my night tonight with Elizabeth Gilbert on Inspire Creativity. So there you go. One of the biggest lessons I got out tonight is when inspiration comes to you, act on it straight away. Liz called it conscious urgency, which I totally love. So that's why I'm here. I'm still all dressed up from the theatre. Because I just wanted to share some of the pieces of wisdom that I got out of tonight. So for those of you who don't know who Elizabeth Gilbert is, she is most renowned for her memoir, Eat, Pray, Love, an incredible book that I've obviously devoured and highlighted and underlined, and it was also turned into a movie starring Julia Roberts. So if you don't really feel like reading through, though it's well worth it, all 200 and 300 something odd pages, definitely check out the movie because it will give you an insight into what the book's about. So kind of like two main topics that I kind of chunked it into that I want to cover very quickly and kind of rehash on what she covered. So the first idea is on creativity and inspiration. And as I've already mentioned, her biggest takeaway, or the biggest takeaway I got, was really act when ideas come to you. She kind of had a woo-woo take on it, which really resonated with me. So take it or leave it, entirely up to you. But this was her take. And her idea, or her, I guess, model of the world is that there are so many ideas like swirling around the world. And they're just looking for the right people who are open and ready to take on that idea and to bring it into the world. So to manifest it per se. And what she says is when an idea comes to you, you kind of enter into a contract with it, if that is an idea you want to work with. But in that contract, there's a certain period of time in which you have to action it. She shared a story where an idea came to her, and then she had some stuff happen, and she had to put the idea on the shelf for about 2 years. And when she came back to that idea, and like that manuscript and all those notes, she's like, there was nothing there. The notes were still there, but the essence, the guts, the feeling of it wasn't there. And I think this story really kind of illustrates it perfectly, because it's like that essence or that idea is kind of the life of it. And she had this really beautiful wording for it. She's like, you know, it's like I left that idea in a waiting room with no magazines for 2 years. She's like, I'm not going to blame it if it decides to split and go find somewhere else. And that's exactly what it did. She met another author a couple of years down the track, and not even kidding, when they reconnected, this lady was talking about her book, and it was a very similar, if not on par, the exact idea of Liz Gilbert's, with obviously this lady's kind of take on it. And for her, when she was telling that story, that really hit home that, wow, you know, there really are these very specific ideas, and if you kind of enter into a contract and don't take it on, someone else will, and that's okay. Another really cool thing that she actually explained was don't blame the idea, and we're going to go into this a little bit more in the second part of what I want to talk about. She's like, don't blame the idea if it goes somewhere else. She's like, you entered into a contract, other things came up, that's cool, but the idea has no ego. It's all about just wanting to be born. So if it gets impatient, that's cool, but it's going to go find somewhere else. So don't get all up in arms if the idea goes someplace else. And I guess what she didn't go into, but is also kind of worth mentioning, is if you go back to an idea and it's stale, there is no life, just move on. And I love this piece because she mentioned that there were quite a few projects over a number of years. Like we're talking, I think it was like 3 or 4 projects over a period of 5 years. That she said she had this idea, but she kind of took too long to nut it out. And next thing you know, she's put it forward as a book proposal and someone else has already actually published the book. And for her, that was a real process of letting go of that idea so that something new could come in. And she really made a note of, you know, letting go of things. And for me, I was like, ah. Because for me, this isn't just about ideas, it's about people, it's about experiences, but letting go of ideas is just as important as keeping them. Because when you let go of new things, kind of like when you clean out your wardrobe, you allow for space to come, or you create space for new things to come. So I really liked and resonated with that component, because it's all about the balance of keeping and letting go. The second part I want to cover is more personal to her, but I just wanted to share it because I really liked it, was her journey being a novelist, and also, as she termed it, her delusional magical thinking, which I love. So first of all, she describes that when she first discovered at a very young age, as a young girl, the term or the word what being a novelist meant, that whenever someone would ask, what do you want to be when you grow up, that is what she said. And she said she had this one uncle who, when she said, hey, I want to be a novelist, he's like, well, what do you want to be that for? That's like, you know, being a leaf. You don't actually do anything. And what I love about this, like what I kind of read into it, is other people won't have the same model of the world, not always. But it's about what speaks to you, what are you naturally drawn to. So that's kind of the first part. The second part she talks about is her concept of magic. And she pretty frames it straight from the start, saying, I'm not just talking about, you know, magic is just a word. She's like, I'm talking quite literally like Hogwarts kind of magic. And I was like, ooh, this is going to be cool. And some of the experiences and stories she shared of how inspiration came to her, it really was quite special. It kind of gave me warm goosebumps inside that there may actually be something else out there. Not like aliens or anything, that's not where I'm going with this, but yeah. And she said she's woken up from sleep some days, and literally an entire story will be mapped out for her. She just has to get it down as quickly as she can. She said sometimes her best periods of inspiration are kind of that in-between phase, and some scientific term for it, between waking and sleeping. There's kind of like that lull phase. And she termed it beautifully. She said, this is where the guardians of the ego are asleep at the gate, so creativity can kind of sneak in. So if you're a creative person yourself, kind of be aware of those little moments in between waking and sleeping where inspiration may slip in. I know for me, I've woken up some mornings, I've just been like, whoa, my to-do list is already in my head. Another thing she mentioned about magic was being a novelist, or being anything creative, but more specifically to being a novelist, really is a magical field, because you're creating and summoning characters out of nowhere, out of your imagination, and they become your life. You become to believe in them and their stories. And she said even now, stories she's written 10 years ago, the characters will still come visit her in imagination, they're still alive. And she's like, they'll let me know who's married who and what's been happening. So for all those creative people out there who have maybe created a piece, you're not crazy if the story lives on after the last full stop, because it can, because it's your world. Another thing she mentioned in her whole world of magic is the signs. So inspiration will come, and then sometimes, particularly when she's had a few knockbacks, she'll go, okay, give me a sign that this is definitely the right project and no one else is going to write it. So she'll sometimes get chills up her arms, or she'll get just a letter or a book or something that has something she needs to read. But chills up her arms is one of her things. So I would really encourage you, I know for me it's a gut feeling, or I just get like an inkling, but get to know your signs is another thing. Because your ideas are out there, she said, your ideas are almost like on the corners of your room. They're like, how do we get their attention? And it's those signs that you come to know that they'll use. So really start to listen to your signs. Going back to being a novelist as well, she also explained her journey with writing. At the start she wrote fiction, but one of her most, well-renowned pieces is actually her memoir. And she said she loved writing fiction, but she abruptly stopped when she was 30. That's because all hell broke loose basically, and you can read about it in Eat, Pray, Love or watch the movie. But she said she found it very hard to create drama when you're living in it. So for all those creatives out there, whether you're a writer, a painter, you create courses, whatever it may be, we all have a creative element, a dancer. Make sure that you create an open space up here and what you surround yourself with. I know sometimes I'm guilty of not keeping the space so clean. But keep it clean for ideas to be able to come and to express themselves. If you have clutter up here or around here, it's very difficult to see the signs and for things to come in. Also, going back to the novel writing, when she hit that crazy period when she was 30, she said that writing took on a new form. It was no longer about creating fiction for others. She used writing as a way to actually get through what she was going through with life. And she's created 2 memoirs now, both that have happened in sticky situations or periods of our life over a couple of years, that have allowed her to kind of cope and deal with and process what's going on. So I know for me, sorry, that was my belly. I know for me, it's been journaling. Journaling I've been doing since I was 12, and it allows me to kind of get what's going on here out. Some people dance it out, some people paint it out, but get whatever is going on here out so you create some mental space in your head. And the final components are all about keeping up morale. She said it's very easy to get into a destroying behavior or a destroying state of mind. I love the way she said it. And thinking that when someone else has, you know, kind of not stolen your idea, but you've had the same idea and they've got in first. She said it can be very easy to slip into, oh, they stole my idea. Or perhaps it's, I suck, you know, I had this idea and I didn't do anything with it, and you can beat yourself up. The third thing you could probably slip into is, well, there aren't enough ideas to go around anyway, so why should I even bother? And she said be very careful with this destroying mentality, she said, because she's been there. And more so just recognize that they're all ideas. There's no ego attached to them. All they want to do is manifest, to be birthed, to find their place in the world. She's like, it's not like all these ideas are ganging up on you and they want to trick you or make a fool of you or anything like that. It's all about going, hey, you know what, this idea, you're not the right person to tell it, or you took too long, but that's okay, because there's another idea around the corner. So it's all about kind of keeping in that positive, delusional, magical mindset. Another thing she shared was when you're losing morale and the trail's gone completely cold, she said just backtrack. Backtrack to when the trail was undeniably hot, when you really got the shivers down your spine or your arm, and you got the goosebumps, and go back to that place. And then track on forwards. Because sometimes you may get an idea, but you might go down this path and needs to go that path. So just backtrack to where it was here, where it's really super duper hot, yep, and then keep going down. So I guess probably one of the biggest lessons for me out of all of tonight is just the realization of how cool it is to see other people's model of the world. You know, this was this incredible author, and just hearing her journey, her ups and her downs, and the way that she saw ideas and creativity, and seeing what really felt right with me and how I saw the world, and maybe what's going to expand the way I think. So I'd really like to encourage you, if you have any events in your local town, city, village, wherever you are, get out and hear people's stories, particularly those who are perhaps a little bit older or have gone through a few more things and have also processed those things and can share with you the lessons that they learned. Not just like the story, but also, hey, this is what I took away from it. So I hope you got some things away from that, particularly all you creative people out there. I'm off to bed now, but I want to thank you for watching, and yeah, I hope I could pass on some of that wisdom that Liz certainly inspired and taught me. Oh, also, I did take my shoes off for this, but mint slice, the greatest thing ever. I just feel good with it. So good. Yes, I took mint slice. Okay.